Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. My name's Ambona and I'm a trauma recovery coach who specializes in helping people to recover from narcissistic abuse and rediscover their true authentic selves by healing their inner core wounds. I recently posted a question asking my subscribers what they're currently struggling with so I can help them address them in my content. So many of you responded and I'll be addressing all of your issues over the next few weeks. So please do subscribe, and if you haven't already, press the bell to get notifications so that you don't miss anything. So today's topic is on codependency and going a little deeper into more than just what it is, but why you're a codependent and what you can do to heal yourself. So my hope is that this information will give you more awareness, which is one of the keys to healing codependent traits. You've probably noticed yourself that where there's a narcissist, there's also a codependent. And the reason this happens is because both parties' focus is on the narcissist. The narcissist only cares about themselves, and the codependent cares mainly about taking care and catering to the narcissist's needs. This is a codependent's coping mechanism. So they dismiss their own feelings, their inner core wounds, their inner world, and instead focus only on the narcissist, making them responsible for their pain, so projecting their own pain, but in the guise of neediness. However, as I'll explain further, the codependent's pain stems from inner core wounds, and they are the only ones who are responsible and can heal them. As children, if we experience trauma, being children, we don't know what to do with that pain. So we dissociate from the pain or the trauma, and consequently ourselves. In adult relationships, our inner core wounds are triggered and initiate our coping mechanisms. In this case, for the codependent, it's the forgetting of oneself, dismissing one's own emotions, and giving all of ourselves to the narcissist and their needs, and even taking responsibility for the narcissist's toxic behavior in order to sustain the relationship. Codependents unconsciously migrate towards people who cause them pain because they believe that the pain is coming from outside of themselves, i.e. from the narcissist. Now that's easier to deal with than going within and seeking the root cause of the actual pain. So when people ask me the question, why do I keep getting into relationships with narcissists? The answer is usually because they are unconsciously making that choice because being with a narcissist equals pain. Now I know that sounds weird. Why would you want to be in pain? But it's all unconscious. And the narcissist is like a distraction from dealing with their own inner pain. So once you heal the codependent patterns, you'll find yourself gravitating towards healthier relationships and non-toxic people. So you may see the similarities here between the narcissist and the codependent in that they both project their pain. However, the difference is in their coping mechanisms. The narcissist's way is to inflict pain, torment, confusion, and the codependent's way is to dismiss their own feelings, biting their tongue, people-pleasing, apologizing profusely, making excuses for the narcissist's behavior, and the inability to set boundaries and the fear of saying no. Now, I know there are a lot of videos covering codependency, the traits of the codependent person and the whys, yet so many people contact me about this and they feel that even though they've had therapy, they still find themselves in this cycle and haven't really gotten to the root of it. And I feel the reason why is because although they understand what it is and why they do what they do, they haven't tackled it from a symptom angle and addressed their inner core wounds. I mean, really address their inner core wounds. Once you break down the symptoms, you have awareness of those inner core wounds and tackle them one by one, you'll find that you can heal and will eventually heal from codependency. Now, a person who suffers from codependency may also suffer with dysfunctional family dynamics, people-pleasing, low self-esteem, denial, fear of abandonment, confusing love for intensity or pity, anxiety, stress, the inability to express emotions, difficulty setting boundaries, being very reactive and emotional, having intimacy issues, and shame and guilt. Codependents can also be very, very strong on their own, but have weaknesses when within relationships. It seems to be that the being in the relationship is what brings the codependent behaviors to the surface, mainly because their inner core wounds are being triggered in the relationship. So in this case, the codependent's inner core wounds are being triggered by the narcissist. So codependents tend to lose themselves within the relationship. In fact, the relationship becomes their whole identity, and this happens because they always put the needs of others before their own. Again, this may come from childhood where their basic needs weren't met, they were made to feel unworthy, therefore dissociated from themselves, their emotions, and their own needs. This is what causes codependents to make themselves indispensable and feel needed by someone. It's where they gain their sense of worth by taking care of others, but at their own expense. They feel that by making themselves so needed, they can avoid being abandoned. Codependent relationships are usually imbalanced, where there's someone that does all the giving and the other does all the taking. And this is the reason why so many codependents end up with narcissists, because all narcissists do is take, and take. Yet the codependent gives all they've got plus more. Survivors of narcissistic abuse are usually reeling in emotional pain when a narcissist runs off and discards them without blinking, because now they're no longer needed. All their giving was in vain, and the narcissist just transfers their dependency onto the next supply. You realize why this pattern occurs when you look at the word codependency. You just break it up. It contains the word dependency, which is a person who depends on usually more than one person, much like a child would. Yet a codependent usually focuses their attention on just that one person. Hence why it's so painful when a codependent is discarded. That one person that they felt needed by is gone. And the narcissist can then move on to the next because, much like a dependent does, they rely on more than one person to meet their needs. A codependent builds their whole identity around that relationship, and this is why they find it so hard to let go, because they've become one with the narcissist. And when they leave, it's almost as if they've taken them with them. So how do you heal from codependency? Now, a codependent can heal mainly because they do have that capability to reflect on their own toxic behaviors and then make necessary changes. Codependents usually avoid facing themselves, though, and dismiss their own feelings and instead project it onto others through being needed. So it's important that they become aware of their own needs and really tune into themselves, explore their own core wounds, face any rage they may have, any grief from the past, or feelings of inadequacy, fear, or low self-worth. Healing comes with focusing on identifying your own needs, wants, and desires, and facing one's inner reality, and making self-care and self-love an absolute priority. So when a codependent starts healing, that old dynamic doesn't work anymore. So those people who are dependent on those dysfunctional dynamics, i.e. the narcissist, they will either leave the codependent or the codependent will be the one to leave. Codependents have to shed the victim mentality and recognize that the codependency originated from their dysfunctional upbringing. Yes, in narcissistic relationships, people are victimized. It's also important to recognize that it's the codependency that keeps people in those relationships. Otherwise, it's likely that they wouldn't stay. So the codependency is the reason why they keep entering into toxic relationships. And if they don't let go of the victim mentality, there is no opportunity to heal. The focus needs to be taken off the narcissist and all of it refocused on your healing and recovery. This is why in one of my videos, I talk briefly about not going too far when researching narcissism. In the beginning, it can really help to validate our experiences, but continuing to place most of our focus on what they did, why, and how they work isn't going to help you recover in the long term. However, focusing on what you do, why you do it, and how you work will. You can't control or manage a narcissist's behavior, as you well know. They'll just react the way they want to. That is completely out of your control. You can't fix or heal another person, but you can control how you feel and heal from codependency. As you change your behavior, you change who you allow into your life. So here are some things you can do to help change your behavior, and I do recommend getting help in working through this, professional help via a coach like myself or therapy if you're going to it, as it's very easy to just dismiss certain behaviors or traits or fail to recognize patterns. So you need to have awareness of your own codependent patterns and stop them. Ask yourself why you reacted the way you reacted. That can go a long way in cultivating awareness. You can't prevent a behavior unless you first become aware of it. As a codependent, you need to be willing to explore those deep inner core wounds and recognize how they are getting in your way. These will include addressing limiting beliefs, what you believe, why, and how it's playing out in your life. Learning to walk away from toxic relationships without the fear of abandonment, and know that you'll be okay and better off out of the situation. Often as codependents, it's easier to hold on for dear life to a situation that's doing anything but ruining your life. Fear of abandonment comes into play here, so again, it's important to address where that may have originated from. Recognize your own strengths. You are strong. When you're on your own, you can see your strengths, so you need to be able to recognize them either in or out of a relationship. Your recognition of your own strength should be consistent and not dependent on who comes in or out of your life. So you'll also see that the more you heal, the stronger that you'll become. Learn to enjoy your own company and know that being alone isn't a problem, but it's an opportunity to help you grow and learn more about yourself. Don't feel that you need to rush into a relationship, as that feeling of needing to be needed is an indication that your codependent traits are still at play there. The best relationship and very important one you'll have is with yourself, so it's important to invest in that. Take small steps in your recovery. Every little helps. As long as you're active in your recovery, you move forward into it and into healing. And I also recommend creating a journal and every day write down one thing you've done towards your recovery, because that will serve as a reminder and encourage you to keep going forward. Take responsibility for yourself and any part that you play in the relationship. When you can do this, you stay out of denial and you can reclaim your power. Whatever you do, don't beg the narcissist or the abuser to come back, or don't let them beg you to come back or guilt trip you back, because either can happen, and it will if you let it. Why? Because you have to understand that the narcissist is dependent on you because you did play a big role in their life. By accepting their emotional abuse, by taking care of their needs, neglecting yourself in favor of them, if you continue to stay in that role, you then become an enabler to their behavior, and it just continues like a cycle. When you're healing, you recognize it in choosing yourself over another toxic relationship. You won't try to rehabilitate the narcissist anymore or fix them. And even if toxic people do approach you, you'll pull yourself away, knowing that that's not who you are anymore. Healing from codependency doesn't mean you'll never ever experience those behaviors ever again. It's like a journey, it's ongoing. You might still have the traits show up now and then, but by having the awareness of them, you then have the tools and the ability to correct them on the spot and set boundaries or just remove yourself from dysfunctional relationships. The healthier you become, the more tuned in you'll be to your own needs. That's what recovery from codependency is, knowing that you needn't be dependent on anyone outside of yourself to meet your needs, because once you've done the inner work, you realize that who you are is enough and deserving of meeting your own needs. So I hope that helped give you a greater understanding of codependency. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. In strength, Ambona.